Hey guys, today we're going to talk about how hair transplant evaluation works. This is an important part of the process of getting a hair transplant is being correctly evaluated and making that right decision that's going to lead to the future of your hair. Steve just told me this kind of crazy story about a recent consultation that he did and interaction with a patient, and I just thought that this is something that you guys need to hear because it's definitely something that there's a good chance that you could go through as a hair transplant patient. So kind of fill us in and exactly what happened.
Okay, great. So I'm in LA
Yeah.
and I'm with one of my top doctors that I refer a lot of patients to. This doctor's board certified. I believe he's an ex-president of the ABHRS. I have all the confidence in the world in him, or I wouldn't be referring patients to him. And, it just blew my mind because the doctor comes in the office and meets the patient and evaluates the patient. And he goes through pretty much anything you would expect to be evaluated. He checks the donor zone, he checks the elasticity of the scalp, he checks the size of the head, and he measures out, this is going to be an FUT procedure, by the way, measures out the size of the potential strip, and he gives a on-the-spot assessment based on what the patient's goals are and what he can deliver in regards to the amount of grafts and hairs.
And this is one of the top doctors in the world.
Absolutely. This is one, I would say, in the top 10.
Okay.
Yeah. So takeaway is that the patient was all excited about it, and the patient chooses a date, and the patient ends up getting pre-op instructions, walks out the door, and I get a phone call because I'm always love to talk to patients, as you know, and I want to guide them through this journey.
And approximately how many, it was hairs, how many hairs was this patient, did this doctor think that the patient could get from this surgery?
He thought that the range could be somewhere between 6,500 and 7,500 hairs.
Okay.
Okay.
After doing his measurements and
Right,
everything like that.
size, all those requirements in determining 65 to 75, including the approximate density of the hair.
Okay.
So lo and behold, I get a phone call about 6 days later, and the patient's on the schedule, at the doctor's schedule for about 2 weeks. And the patient says, "Hey, I've got really bad news. I'm really appreciate you guys working with me and you guys spending time with me. But I found another doctor, and I made a phone call because I was watching YouTube, and this doctor is like talking about moving twice the hair for the same price."
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, great. I said, that's fine. And just remember, I still want to hold your hand. I still want to guide you. I still want to follow you and have you report back to me on how you're doing. But just out of sheer curiosity, let's just make sure you're choosing a good doctor, a good clinic.
Yeah.
So he goes in to talk about a doctor that he found of some videos. And I said, well, hold on a second. I said, did you visit the doctor's clinic? Well, no. I said, how did you meet the doctor? Well, I didn't meet the doctor. So how did you speak to the clinic? Well, I was on a phone call. So I said, okay, you were on a phone call. So lo and behold,
So
I guess.
so you're asking how did they come up with a number of hairs based on all of the qualifications that you're supposed to look for? Elasticity, the density, measuring your head, all of these things that will lead to that number that decides what's a logical amount for a top physician to be able to move in one surgery. How did they come up with that?
Exactly. Those are all my questions. So I said, hold on a second. I said, did they ask you the size of your head?
Yeah.
No. Did they ask you what hat size you wear?
Yeah.
No. Did they ask you to measure the back of your head? No. Did they ask you if you have a tight scalp or loose scalp, even though I really don't think any of us know that for sure?
Yeah.
No, none of those questions. It's just that their doctor uses techniques that are so good that they can move double the hair of everybody else with no in-person evaluation.
Yeah.
So I was confused, and it was a bad experience because everything that David and I are trying to put on these videos to teach the patient how they should be evaluated properly, all those things don't make sense to me.
Yeah. They just kind of went out the window. And because this salesperson on a phone call promised twice as much hair as one of the top physicians in the world can move, after carefully in-person evaluating a patient, that patient decided to go to this other doctor. Because, I mean, it's kind of like, I was thinking, what's an analogy? I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but it's kind of like if you have $10,000 to buy a car, right? And you check out a car, and it's a Honda Accord, and you go inspect the engine, you look at the tires, you drive the car around, and you go, okay, cool, this is a great car, like $10,000, excellent. And then you get on the phone with a guy, and this guy goes, oh, I sell cars too. Well, I can get you a Corvette. It's only 2 years old, and it'll only cost $10,000. And you're like, oh, wow, I can get a Corvette instead of a Honda Accord? for
Exactly.
$10,000, but you've never seen the Corvette. You don't know if the Corvette has an engine, if the air conditioning works, if anything. But you're just like, well, darn, I can get this guy promised me a Corvette. It's only 2 years old, so I guess I'll go do that instead of getting this Honda Accord that I just drove.
Who wouldn't, right?
Yeah,
Who wouldn't?
yeah.
And here's the final point about this, and that's a great point, David, is that I'm a big fan, and I actually do a lot of virtual consultations. I do a lot of phone consultations, but I will always use the worst case scenario. I will always use the smallest numbers.
Yep.
And I explain to the patient that we have to use the lightest density per centimeter squared because you're not here. We have to use the smallest possible number because you're not here. So if that patient then goes off of my phone call or my virtual consult and goes somewhere to be evaluated and has a really good relationship with one of our top doctors and is seen in person, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But to just jump ship to buy that Corvette, like you're saying, and find out there's no engine, lo and behold, the measurements aren't there on the day of the procedure. The density's not there on the day of the procedure. These are the questions that need to be asked.
And you wonder too. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not judging the morality of this clinic in this way, but you know, if the guy shows up and you know they actually can only get that 6,500s, the 7,500 hairs, and do they even charge them then for the full amount of hairs, or how does that work on the the charging? Or suddenly does it drop on the day of the surgery? I know if I went in as a potential patient and then suddenly they told me, oh yeah, actually we can only get the amount of hairs that other guy promised, I'd be a little bit upset.
I like to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I
Yeah.
don't have a bad word to say about anybody. I never name doctors. I never name clinics. And I don't even blame the doctors in these situations. I really don't.
Yeah.
But when you're getting half the hair on the day of the procedure, hopefully that's going to be disclosed at the end of the procedure and you're going to be compensated for that. But the whole reason you went there was for twice the hair. So that's the problem that I have, is that we have to go into this. If everybody's playing on the same level field, you can choose whatever doctor and clinic you want.
Yeah.
These videos are help to guide you down those that I feel are best suited to deliver the best results. I'm sure there's others out there that I don't know about.
Yeah.
But if they're throwing around numbers or cars like that, or BMW for $10,000, sign me up.